Hello and welcome to 1111 Oracle. I am changing the format of my channel just a little bit so that each week I will strive to have one pick a card reading, then one, this week it was a healing. You can check that video out. I did a sound / reiki infused healing and sort of like a meditative quick tune-up experience, if you will. That doesn't mean I'm always going to do a healing video, but this week I decided to. And then this week, or this video I should say, for this week, I am going to present to you different techniques that you can do in order to communicate with your angel guides, your spirit guides. So now I'm just going to throw some suggestions out there, but my suggestions are not better than yours. And by all means, if you do find that you have something that works for you and I haven't mentioned it, feel free to mention it in the comments. That would be interesting. And we're all wired differently. We're all interested in different things. So naturally, the way that we connect to the spirit world is going to be unique and also conditional to a certain degree upon the 5-dimensional talents that we already bring to the table. So I want you to think of it this way. Take a moment and ask yourself, what are a few things that you do well in the physical, everyday, 3D world that you live in? Just think about it. Could be a talent, a skill. What are a few things that you feel that you do well naturally? It could be an unconventional thing as well. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say, I'm just going to give you a random name. And if this is your name and you're watching this and this is your talent, let me know in the comments below. That would be really neat. Otherwise, the example I'm giving is Sally loves to paint. Sally loves to paint. And she has practiced her technique and improved it a lot over the years. Now, when Sally is opening up her intuitive abilities, she may notice that her imagination is pretty vivid and she will start to see visions in dreams or even just maybe in a daydream on her way to work. Now, Sally should understand that since she is very right-brained inclined as far as her talents are concerned when it comes to art and visual art, then naturally her imagination will also be rich, which will give birth to an intuition that uses what she's naturally good at: visualization, imagination. She can see, she's a very visually oriented person. So we can say that maybe her primary gifts would be of clairvoyance, and maybe she is talented in other areas as well. But the painting gives us a point at which to start from, right? All right. So think of what it is that you're good at. Okay, or something that is, or beyond that, particularly sensitive for you. Maybe you have a strong sense of smell. You may be able to smell phantom smells. That's happened to me a few times, not too often, but that's when you smell almost like you're in a place where that person, that someone has passed on, let's say an uncle, and you are in a room in a building, let's say, where there's no one around with that cologne that he wore, and you're maybe all by yourself, and you get this whiff of his cologne. So that could be an indication that, spirit is communicating to you through smell. So if you have a strong sense of smell, then I would build off of that and see how you can connect to spirit in that way. Or if you have very strong or sensitive hearing, okay? Which of your five senses do you tend to either depend upon the most, or you're particularly sensitive to? If you're a musician, right? Or if you are, you enjoy listening to music, then you may be clairaudient. So anyway, that was a little bit of me going off on a tangent and blabbing there. But what I wanted to do was to pull you back to the concept of you're going to connect to spirit in a very similar way to, the way you are naturally wired. Okay. Building off on Sally and her love of painting, spirit may come to her through her imagination by suggesting different ideas, different images in her mind, so that when she then acts as a channel for that message and puts it out on paper, then spirit will be able to communicate a message to her visually, if she's willing and open to receive the message, as sometimes anything channeled through with a sort of right-brained inclination will be nuanced and subjective. So you have to be willing to decipher messages in a subjective way, as a message that's meant for Sally could be interpreted completely different for Jane. Okay. So if you're clairaudient, okay, if you're clairaudient, for example, spirit then may communicate to you through thoughts in your own mind. You may hear a physical voice, but more so than not, that would be a pretty rare situation. More often than not, you would have sort of thoughts in your mind that don't seem like they come from you. All right, of course, ruling out any kind of mental disalignment that you would have to check up. In general, when you have a subtle thought that comes through and it feels like it's giving you advice, or it comes from a good place, and it just didn't have anything to do with what you were doing or or the way you were thinking, then a lot of times if that feels good and it's giving you good advice, then generally speaking, this would come from a higher place. Of course, you have to use your reasoning and your logic to determine what resonates the most there. But be aware, be vigilant of what you're naturally sensitive and attuned to, and how you might receive messages. Okay, sometimes when you're walking down the street and you see a repeated number, for example, that's another way that spirit likes to connect with a lot of people, through repeated numbers, especially now that it's so popular to look up their meanings in numerology. Spirit likes to get us where we're going to pay attention. So if you see a lot of repeated ones or repeated fours, or you see a certain number sequence. I'm looking at the time right now and I see 6:55. Okay, before it was 6:54. That may be relevant to some of you as well. 76 may be relevant to some of you as well. 88 or I think that's it. Maybe 21. 99 is also coming up. And 100. Anyway, if I said a number that resonated with you, then there's that confirmation through me that Spirit is, trying to relay whatever that message is. So you can look up and make your, deduce your own kind of understanding of what numbers mean numerologically, if you study the individual number and you try to make an assessment putting them together. Or you can simply, type up the number in your phone or whatever and look angel number 655 and see what comes up. All right, so that's another interesting way then that you can communicate with Spirit. Now what I would say is, as you're communicating with Spirit, don't go looking for signs, because if you forcefully go and look for signs, then you're going to miss the ones that count. You won't really know what to look for. You kind of have to let it come naturally to you. And don't worry if you don't see a sign for a while, because if you missed one, Spirit will always find a way of bringing another one to you. And, something really beautiful about communicating with Spirit is, whether you realize it or not, your spirit guides, your guardian angels, they are listening, they are paying attention. Unfortunately, you can't always receive their messages, and it's not because you can't, it's just because you have to learn how to connect with that part of you that's particularly sensitive to Spirit, and how you can open that up even more, right? Meditation with a grounded component of drinking water and eating, something healthy for you afterwards, is a good idea. Just living a healthy lifestyle, having good sleep. I know it sounds cliche, but all of this helps you to become a clear channel with Spirit, although not necessarily. Right, it's not going to be mutually exclusive, that if you take good care of your health, that all of a sudden you're going to be an amazing channel for Spirit, right? And, the opposite is true as well. So, I think what I'm trying to say is, you have to find a good balance for yourself in general, right? And journaling, writing things down. When you get an idea, write it down. See if it makes sense. Look for patterns and things. I would try to strengthen that ability to look for connections and look for patterns. Try to see if you find, if you don't look for them too much, don't look too hard. Don't go out and actively look for patterns. But, if you notice, hey, wait, I saw that word before, and I saw it before, and then I read that book last week, oh my gosh, and then whoa, and you just start to connect the dots naturally. So yeah, I would connect the dots as things are happening to you, not looking for them and then connecting dots purposefully. Just let things flow. That's the hardest thing when it comes to communicating with Spirit, is you have to learn how to just let the communication flow. You can't just ask a question and demand a response back. It's not how it works. Also, if you're too aggressive in your approach, then you're going to create a natural barrier and a block for yourself, where you're only going to build frustration towards not being able to, quote unquote, communicate with your spirit guides. And then that frustration is going to block you from accessing your clear, rational mind, so that you can weigh out, hey, what's actually happening here, and connect that then to your intuitive, calm mind, which, comes from a quiet space of decluttered emotions. So one thing that you have to work on in order to be a clear channel with spirit is your emotional energy. Now, it's not to say that you should be positive all the time and cheery, because of course that's kind of silly. We're human. We're here to experience the full wide range of emotions, and you would be to a degree pretty immature if you were only focused on positive emotions. And I mean immature in the sense that you can't mature as an adult without understanding that there's also grief, that there is also anger, that there is also stress. Understanding negative emotions helps you to mature and become more centered and more and wiser as you grow older. So please don't misinterpret me by giving anyone an insult that, to think positively is immature, because that's not what I'm saying. Thinking positively is very mature, and it takes a strong mind to be able to do that. But ignoring the negative completely and not feeling it, not allowing yourself to feel it, is what is going to put you in a sort of an immature place from a very logical, understanding of you need to grow in wisdom. I mean, that's why we're here on the planet Earth anyway, to grow in wisdom. This is a harsh environment for a lot of people. So there is inherently a mixture of cruelty and beauty on planet Earth. Anyway, now I'm going off on a tangent. I can talk about that in another video. This video is really about making yourself a good channel for spirit. So getting in touch with your darker emotions is what is going to, in fact, allow you to become more connected with spirit. Spirit wants you to connect with your emotions and to be able to look at them objectively, extract their messages, and understand, what the deeper wisdom and truth is being presented. If you do that, then you're already communicating with spirit. Because just by listening to the emotional language of your heart, spirit is going to be able to give you those messages that you need in order to move forward. So you see how that's all entangled? Oh my God, just did a happy shake confirming that for you there. So you have a bunch of different tools and techniques. I'm trying to think of a few more here. I know this is going to sound like the most cliche tip of them all, but I'll end with this one. And I'll bring forward other videos in future if you guys want to hear more tips, but these are just a few for communicating with spirit. Trust your intuition, but also balance it out with your rational, logical mind to make sure that this is something that you can accept, right? Weigh it out with certain elements of reality too, but be firm and proud of whatever it is that you do believe in, so long as it is bringing you up and those around you. Self-love. Self-love, the most cliche tip of them all, I know. But it's true. It's a very simple truth that self-love is, come on. There we go. You may have bad allergies sometimes if you're not allowing yourself to fully live and be in the world, right? Your body may react in having a ton of allergies. You may just be a hypersensitive person anyway. I feel a lot of people tuning in are hypersensitive in an energetic way. Could also be in other ways, but I'm talking about it from a spiritual sense right now. Anyway, self-love is a big one. You can manifest a lot of positivity and abundance towards you by learning to love yourself. And that in and of itself is going to make you a big, beautiful, open channel for spirit. Not to say that you can't have your bad days. In fact, sometimes it's important to let it out and cry. And that's exactly what Spirit wants you to do when you get in touch with your emotion. Allow yourself also to feel that emotion. It's okay to feel it, okay? Just don't get caught up in it for too long, because it will only be a downward spiral. It will lower your energetic frequency, or however you like to put it, and it'll just, you know, like attracts like in layman's terms, right? If you're in a negative situation, you're going to attract negative situations. If you're in a positive situation, you're going to attract positive situations. Now, if you're having a hard time and you're like, well, I'm having a hard time, I guess I'm just negative, I guess I'm just always going to attract negative. No, don't worry. It doesn't work that way either. It's all about your mind over matter, right? So if you put yourself in a mentality of, I love myself despite my flaws, I'm doing the best I can, I am not perfect and no one is anyway, and I'm putting one step in front of the other. Sometimes I do have to take some steps back. Sometimes I need to humble myself, to ground myself, to learn from my mistakes. But that's okay, because that's why we're here. And then just, you know, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Good days and bad days. Loving yourself despite your flaws, just like you have a pet that you love a lot and the pet chewed your favorite shoes. That doesn't mean that you love the pet any less. You might be really angry and frustrated. Well, same with yourself. Some days you have bad days. Doesn't mean you need to love yourself any less. Just you had a bad day and, you know, maybe you made a mistake or whatever. You know, it's okay, right? That's why we're here. Again, we're human. So, Spirit does not expect us to be perfect. Spirit expects us to make mistakes. Otherwise, we would not need them to guide us and protect us if we were just perfect, right? So there's no such thing. And so self-love is about just really digging in and saying, this is who I am. At my core, I can change certain aspects of myself to improve my quality of life, to improve my inner fulfillment, my joy, my dreams, my goals, whatever. But the essence of me is still the same, so I love myself because I've been through hell and back and I can do it, right? So anyway, that was a little tangent on self-love, but self-love is the last key component tip, right, to work on self-love. When it comes to being a clear, open channel to Spirit, Spirit can also talk through. Spirit likes when you're vulnerable to Spirit, then Spirit can get through to you a lot easier. So being vulnerable about having a bad day and everything, that's exactly what Spirit wants you to do. Just talk to Spirit, talk to your guardian angels, or in your head or out loud, and don't worry about waiting for a response. The response will come when it needs to come. Maybe you go to sleep and you have a dream. Maybe later on you see a book and it reminds you of what you were talking about to Spirit. Okay? Being honest to them about your bad days is what allows you to be vulnerable and them to get through to you and to be able to pass on those messages. But in order to hear those messages, you also need to find your sense of, you know, that eye in the middle of the storm, that stasis. Focus on your deep breathing, even place your hand on your heart. And then as you do that, just allow the messages to come through to you and see what happens. Vent, then stop venting. Put your hand on your chest, breathe in, breathe out deeply. Do that a few times, or as many times as you like. And just imagine yourself as an open vessel for Spirit energy messages to come through. where you can maybe write down what you know, have, you know, a thought in your head or an image or, you know, whatever it is. And it would be so nice if you can comment down below and see if you've used any of my techniques, if they work for you, and if maybe you have a suggestion for, I don't know, another kind of technique. All right, let me know. It was wonderful to do this video for you, and I look forward to presenting you other videos in the future.